Hi, Tony from All the Remote Things here again. It's a great pleasure for me to have Yurii Filipchuk with us. Yurii, how are you today up in the mountains?
Yeah, good morning. It's still an early morning here, and I'm not a morning person, but greetings from the Ukrainian Carpathians.
Yeah, I really appreciate you waking up early in the morning to talk to us, and of course you're up in the Ukraines there, so a fantastic part of the world as well. Um, it might be really good for people to understand who you are and where you come from as we get into this. So it'd be nice if you introduce yourself for us.
Yes, it will be my pleasure. And thank you, Tony, for inviting me for the show. So I am just an ex-financier and deal maker who started a company in May 2020 during the first wave of pandemics. And me and my co-founders, they are game dev veterans. We thought that it would be really good to gamify video chats. Let's alleviate the burden of boring chats and video communication from people. Uh, that sounded like a great idea at that moment. And that was just a beginning of a long, interesting story where our company became Party.Space. We hosted more than 100 events for the most prominent remote teams and online communities. And now what we are building is called Metaverse.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. So how, and let me just talk about how we've come to meet each other. Is that you came to our attention around the metaverse events, and as we were chatting around that, we're going to actually host one of our guide forums. We particularly have our guides come along in one of your metaverse spaces. So we'll talk about that a little bit further as we go along. So yeah, so Party.Space is actually a metaverse. Let's start with talking about how you really got there. How did the idea come across? I can hear you say you started to make chat a bit better, but you've really delved into the metaverse and how you make these virtual environments. How did that idea, sort of spiral into what you've got now?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And the answer is that we were listening to what our clients are wanting to see. And just as we started in May 2020, we had a 2D traditional product with some games in it. But I was looking for a North Star client that would shine above all the others to show off what we could do. And that client was the leading music streaming service. The name is under the NDA, unfortunately for us. But they were looking for a 5,000 people end of year party. And clearly they wanted it to happen online. The only option they had was simply Zoom. And when they saw that we are trying to build something fun, something for people to enjoy virtual event rather than simply listen to what's being said on the stage, they said, okay, yeah, guys, you're going to build it, but we want that to be a 3D environment right in the browser, because we don't want anybody to install anything, and we won't be buying all the fancy headsets. And we want people to have the joy of traditional video communication in 3D environment. At that moment, that sounded complicated. How would you combine everything? But we thought, okay, let's try making it, and we delivered the solution with all the required features. And after we conducted 3 events, actually we divided the event in 3 parts for different time zones, and we digged through the data. People were spending on average more than 2 hours on the platform.
Wow.
And for us, that was a clear sign that it's definitely working better than Zoom. People are engaged. we also saw that people were actively making a lot of connections. They were building like meaningful conversations, and the biggest difference between Zoom and 3D platform, that in Zoom, to move people to breakout rooms, the host or somebody should just do all the connections on the back end, divide people in groups, and then let them enjoy the group conversations. In Party.Space, everything is happening naturally. So you walk around the 3D venue, you see a lot of tables around the room, and when you join the table, you join the conversation with people who are there. And if you don't like that, you can politely stand up and jump to another conversation. Like in real life, you're not forced in boring rectangular Zoomish environment. And people, they just loved it. And that's how everything began for us. And the second most important topic, like the moment for our startup, was when people started calling what we are building. They said, okay, this is the metaverse. And it was like surprisingly nice and good for us, because before that we were saying Party.Space is the 3D environment for virtual events. Party.Space is the virtual events platform in 3D. And every time the 3D part was, not really good to add, it wasn't it wasn't a good fit there organically. But now when people started saying, okay, this is the metaverse, we thought, okay, so probably we were a little bit ahead of the market, and we have our vision of the metaverse. And this is the topic I think that's worth digging into, like what is the metaverse and how different companies are approaching it.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic. No pressure, by the way. You didn't put yourself under any pressure with 5,000 odd people and having to come up with solutions. So kudos to you. I can only imagine it looked calm on the surface and lots of feet paddling underneath to make everything happen, right? I've been in the platform, so I think it's worth mentioning, by the way, that people you can book a demo and you can actually go and test this thing out as well. So we'll talk about how they get in touch with you later on. And I love the situation with it, because you can have a main screen, you can have screens at the tables, you can have games at the tables. And I'm going to own up, when we tested it, I did spend a large amount of time shooting my comrade with emojis, which I thought there was one particular emoji there that I did shooting with quite regularly. But also there's gaming that you can do there, and you've even got virtual DJ. It's really quite interesting, different factor of being able to sit there and look at it, and you can see the big screen, or you can not see the big screen. You can talk, and it's quite eerie, that thing where you walk along and there's this in this virtual environment, and it's not till you sit down that the sound kicks in, which I think is very, very interesting. But as you said, this is sort of the metaverse, the tip of the metaverse, and I'm really interested to hear from you in terms of that, where you see it going. Because let's position this: there's no goggles, right? You're not using VR. This is really the using the 3D rendering to create a metaverse that you can co-opt and react with. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between that and the VR, and where you see it heading.
Yes. So yeah, it's really nice to hear that you enjoyed Party.Space, Tony. That's probably why I'm here with you today. But in fact, yes, metaverse could be approached from different directions, and like 9 of 10 people you're gonna approach will say that metaverse is about VR headsets. Which is, in fact, is almost true. Yes, the initial idea of metaverse being the virtual world where you interact with all the objects and people in a completely virtual way is a good fit for VR headsets. And sadly, that the technology is just not there yet. Like the most popular VR headset, Oculus Quest 2, Facebook only sold 15 million devices yet. So that's just a drop in the ocean if comparing that with all the phones and laptops we have. And this VR part of the market is really focused on gaming and on the ability for people to truly dissolve in the gaming experience. And I own the VR headset. I like playing it, and I like the fitness aspect of it. But it's not something people in companies would use for their corporate events. And as we started with corporate clients, and there is a notion that some startups are more of a B2C startups, not even because of the product, but because the team is more focused on B2C. And Party.Space, I think, leans towards the B2B market more, just because we are a B2B team. And corporate clients, they will be buying VR headsets. They will be playing around with that. Jeremy Dalton from PwC just announced that they bought VR headsets. They're gonna leave them in the PwC office, so anybody can jump in and try the metaverse in their office. Yeah, that's fine, but that sounds kind of not very futuristic if you have to drive by to PwC office to try the metaverse. I like the idea. It might help a lot of people to experience that. But our philosophy is that metaverse should be really accessible by anyone, and 3D environment and video chatting combined on your flat screen is already making the magical change to how you perceive information from the screen. So the term Zoom fatigue is probably all over the remote agility framework. And I loved the recent research that said that one of the greatest causes of Zoom fatigue is that while Zoom calls, we are not looking at cameras and we are not looking at our vis-a-vis. We are looking at ourselves.
Yeah.
They track eyes, and you're constantly trying to look back at yourself. And the monkey that evolved from just running across the jungle and not seeing itself probably through the entire life are now forced to see itself during the whole day for 5 or 7 hours.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
That's definitely driving you crazy. And in Party.Space environment, your video circle is really beneath everything. So we let people look around, and as the one visitor said, they can breathe inside Party.Space events because they have the space around them. So yeah, but the metaverse evolution gonna happen, and I think that in long run, the technology that would be able of streaming the picture right inside your brain gonna win. So Neuralink by Mr. Elon Musk or something like that would definitely be the game changer. But over the span of 10 years, definitely not less.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. So I think it's interesting just to mention to people so they can sort of visualize this, is that when you're actually inside the rooms or this metaverse 3D environment, you're looking out, so you can actually see the others. You're not looking, which is what you were talking about. So you choose an avatar, that's great, and the avatar is who you are, but you're actually looking at where you're walking. You're looking at the objects. You're looking at the environment around you. You don't actually see yourself at all. It's just like as if you walked into a room, which is an interesting positioning. So where are you headed with this? Like, you know, I know you've got this to a stage where you can host these events, and hopefully out of this people will go and have a look and etc. But what's the next thing for Party.Space? Because from what I can see is you've matured the product quite well, but as all startups are, just like ours, you'll have a roadmap, and I'm interested for everyone to hear where you're headed.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I wish I knew that for more steps. Then I know, but I know for sure that the next step is building the subscription on top of Party.Space. We are already receiving a lot of requests, and we just landed 2 first Fortune 500 deals in July. And thank you. Thank you. And one of these clients, they just want to have their internal metaverse for corporate events. They are buying the subscription. And to make the subscription product shine, you have to invest a lot in user journeys and all the interface and experience improvements. And you also need to know your clients like as good as possible. And our next evolutionary step is where we introduce 3 tiers of Party.Space subscriptions. The first one is your own room or a set of rooms for internal corporate events. The second tier is for sales. So we saw that salespeople are really keen on showing off that they have something really special, and we are now creating our first virtual office together with a professional architect bureau, and the design of that office is really amazing. It's also in mountains, coincidentally or not, but the idea would be that your salespeople will be able to invite clients there and impress them. And by the way, this wow effect is something that almost all Party.Space visitors noted as their first impression. So we really would love to track what people are feeling during the events, why they are here. And right now, the main goal of existence of Metaverse is to impress visitors. Yes, and the third tier would be for marketing and community people, for those who are running public events, for those who want to make brand activations, and the third tier would allow them hosting like large-scale community and marketing events. So, yep, that's it.
That's a very exciting and very, very busy time for you to create that. I've got a use case that I wanted to throw out to you, because when I was looking at this, and this comes from me talking to people, you know, obviously with the remote agility framework and doing this cast as well, get to talk to a lot of people. I was just talking to somebody about it today, and one of those things is one of the things that's been lost moving into this remote and this metaverse and hybrid situations is that water cooler conversation, or that ability for people to convene. And I'm interested in that one of the things that struck me about the whole metaverse when I was messing around in your rooms is that it does probably provide a very unique opportunity to have this situation where you have a room set up, like a lunchroom, whatever it be, where people can actually jump in there into the metaverse from the organization and just converse. You know, a lot of organizations, you know, just eating together and drinking together is where, you know, where the work gets done sometimes, right? And that's been lost a little bit. And I think it's an interesting opportunity. Your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one of the core long-term visions we have. So Metaverse is the best tool to build and measure the remote team corporate culture. And in Metaverse, it could be data-driven corporate culture, because you have tremendous amount of data points on how people are acting and behaving there. And like, I think that this spontaneous chit chat at a water cooler or next to the lunchbox or coffee machine is really the true bare bone of corporate culture. It's not something that's I think it's like evolutionary way to build your corporate culture, just to listen to what people are saying around those social places. And you won't be able to force people, like you force people to come on Zoom, and it's hard to make this magic last when you're forced to join the call. But in Party.Space, we see that people, like, driven by their curiosity, are joining the platform, meeting other people, and they are staying to talk there. So the more environment and features we have to encourage this behavior, the better it's going to be for the corporate culture.
Yeah, that's good. And the other one I was thinking, when I was sitting at the table and looking at the different screens and that, I was thinking, the application of this is, a lot of the work that we do and a lot of organizations do is also that facilitation type thing where you have a whiteboard. And, there's lots of digital whiteboards around, but they're really quite clunky. Some have got some good ones and some have got some average ones, but the reality is they're all still in that Zoom or that Butter or whatever it be environment or Teams environment. Are you thinking about that in terms of how you can create a whiteboard that you can interact with virtually within the environment?
That's a good question. So we have a basic whiteboard in the space, and also we saw that Party.Space is the good use for team buildings and even improv sessions, and it's good for L&D managers to conduct some trainings for remote teams. And whiteboard is one of the features required there. We got it. But what I loved most was the request from one of our clients. They wanted to train the public speaking for their employees, and they wanted to indict the fear of talking in front of the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
And for that case, we added a lot of chairs, and like we have a cozy room for 40 people, different tables. You can work like privately, and then at some moment, 40 chairs appear in the middle of the room. All people are put there, and you are in front of that audience, and you gotta give a speech. And that really worked well. And I think we will work these cases more to let people train in Metaverse.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's a fantastic use case as well. Look, that's been really good talking with you around this stuff, and we're getting very close to the end of our time. And we've talked a lot about where it came from, how you got there, and where you're headed, but how can people get involved? How can they touch base with you? Because that's the thing here now, is people are going to want to know more about this, Yurii.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So first of all, go to Party.Space. That's our website. Leave your email or fill in the form, and my team will contact you. So we guide all our clients through the platform, through all use cases manually. We can afford that at the stage of our company, and we really would love to speak with people who are passionate about remote work, people who can generate ideas like Tony just did. So we really appreciate all the inputs and feedback. And just go through a demo with a sales guy, and then you will be able to use Party.Space for your team. The second way to try Party.Space would be in October. So we are preparing the quiz night in Metaverse, horror themed, and questions can be narrated by a professional like host and some celebrities. And there's going to be a bit-sized experience which wouldn't take you a lot of effort to set up. And we really would love to we really would love remote people to test this out, as holidays are really good to celebrate in the metaverse. So Party.Space, stop by and leave your contacts there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'll get the date of that particular event. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes so that people can get on board with that. And I didn't want to steal your thunder around it, because we've just been through that experience with you of your team helping us set it up and stepping us through it. So it was a pretty seamless thing. The other thing that's probably worth mentioning to everyone is that you're able to brand it in your own corporate type paraphernalia as well. You can have your seats and colors and whatever that might be that suit your organization, which is quite brilliant as well. Look, we're really at the end of our time, and I really thank you for spending the time for me. And being up there in the Ukraine, we're really happy that you're able to spend the time with us. For anybody who's watching this, most importantly, don't forget to subscribe, so we keep this thing going. Join us in our Remote AF community at remoteaf.co. That's a lot of remote people and hybrid people that are really passionate about making things work better. Yurii, it's been fantastic to have you on today. Thank you so much for being on all the remote things.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. It was my pleasure and honor. I really appreciate that.
Thanks very much.